This is Total Retail Tech Insights.
The content retail executives need to optimize their use of technology throughout their organizations.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Tech Insights. I'm Joe Keenan, Editor-in-Chief of Total Retail, and I am joined on today's episode by Brian McGlynn, the General Manager of E-commerce at Coveo. Brian and I are going to talk a little bit about Coveo's business, including its recent acquisition of Qubit, and a little bit about how it can help our audience of retail executives. So thank you for joining me today, Brian.
Well, thanks, Joe. It's great to hear to represent Coveo and talk about a lot of interesting topics, exciting things, certainly in the retail industry over the last couple of years and certainly the last year, and just from what we've seen in our business as well. So I've been with Coveo for close to 3 years on top of almost over 20 years in the e-commerce and marketing technology space. So seen a lot of changes, and clearly, as they always say with the proverb, always living in interesting times, I can certainly say that that's been the case in the last couple of years as well. So Joe, thanks for inviting me on the show.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, Brian. And I think this is really going to be an interesting conversation. I guess let's get us started before we kind of dive into the subject matter and talk about some of those interesting topics that we want to get to. It would be helpful for the audience to just give a brief overview of your career a little bit. I mentioned your role as General Manager of E-commerce at Coveo. But tell us a little bit about your journey and how you ended up there and your current role.
Yeah, absolutely. So going through it, once again, how long is the podcast? No, just kidding. We've got a little bit of work from that. So I've been here for about 3 years at Coveo, and I lead really a couple of our groups. We have our e-commerce solutions and website solutions group, really focused on customer conversions and bringing in and really enabling customers to find what they need, make recommendations and items from there. So I came here almost 3 years ago to build the line of business. And a lot of it was just to go in and take from a 15-year experience that Coveo's had as being a company in and around enterprise search and helping information be found by organizations and really driving it just through relevant experiences. And was a happenstance meeting I had in New York City with my previous company, Intershop, where I led the North American operations there. And that was an e-commerce platform, and had reached out to Coveo because I wanted to bring in technology to help serve our customers in the e-commerce world, really to help them find what they're looking for. And having been in search for 15 years from previous other companies such as Autonomy and Interwoven, to really bring that together and see, here's an opportunity to really enrich our capabilities and enrich what we did for our customers. So the meeting with really our CEO at Coveo, starting to talk about a partnership, it turned into more of a conversation about not a partnership, but coming aboard to join this company and really build and grow this particular business. So over the years, I've worked with many B2B, B2C e-commerce companies to go through and help them on their digital journeys as they look to digitize or really grow and build their capabilities along the line. So yeah, from there, it's been really a wild ride in a good way, just as we've gone through as well.
Yeah, it's exciting. So that gives us a little background on you personally. How about just a minute or so, or a brief overview of Coveo's business? I think most are probably in the audience familiar with it, but for those that aren't, maybe if you just give us a quick overview of the work that Coveo does.
Absolutely. So Coveo is certainly, we made some news. We had an IPO this year, and we can certainly go into that a little deeper as well. We went public. So if anybody wants to get all the nitty gritty on where we are, we're on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and CVO is our ticker. We actually went public right around US Thanksgiving. So Coveo, we're over 600 people. We're headquartered in Quebec City. We've got offices in London, New York, and in Montreal, where I'm based out of. And we've been incorporated and active since 2005, and really focusing on solving relevancy issues for customers. So whether it be customers that are trying to find support for a product they bought, we're there to really, the questions they ask, bring the relevant information by way of a search box or a product recommendation in this case. So we've done that where people may have gone in, the likes of many technology companies and others, talking about what the issues are, or others that have gone in to look for product documentation. We've been there to do that. And at the same time, going in and helping organizations be more powerful and really empowering their employees. Really 3 imperatives we followed from where CEOs would be looking at: acquiring customers, making their employees more proficient in answering questions, and ultimately making it so where customers are really engaged and really focus on the long-term viability and viability of an organization through support. So through that particular journey over the years, we've grown to really, as our prospectus says, over $72 million of recurring revenue. So we've come, in this case, definitely a leader in our business. And from there, it's been continued growth and continued excitement as we've gone forward.
Yeah, that's really helpful and provides a good background for the audience. You mentioned the IPO filing. You know, last year, 2021 was a busy one for Coveo with the IPO filing as well as the acquisition of Qubit. So, can you give our audience a little bit of an overview of that acquisition of Qubit and the kind of the subsequent integration of those two platforms and what it can mean for retailer brands and their customers as well?
Qubit was really an important strategic acquisition for us. And we looked at a lot of companies. We certainly had raised capital in 2019 pre-IPO. We've had a very successful growing business as our prospectus and certainly industry analysts have pointed out. So we're at a point where we looked at the point of what can we do to really further accelerate the growth in our product capabilities, as well, really in market presence. So Qubit, based in London in the UK, has been in business for, in this case, over 10 years, serving a lot of luxury brands, the likes of Gucci, LVMH, and others, as well, with many leading retailers. And from that part, we looked at Qubit as an opportunity for us to come aboard and really augment and grow our capabilities, add some amazing people with amazing backgrounds, and some really strong brands that can help supplement. What's really interesting is where Coveo's come forward, we've always been very well known, very well tooled in providing enterprise search solutions. So from a retailer's point of view, we'd power the search box, we power the recommendations, the listing pages and other items, really the purpose of driving additional revenue. Qubit, very similar. They didn't come from the search side, but a lot of it is where they'd come in providing recommendations, providing personalized and really bespoke experiences for the customers. So for the same purpose of boosting revenue. So where they may come in and offer, you think about on their side, maybe a 10% boost on revenue for what they do for a retailer and a customer. We've seen similar items where search is involved. So ultimately, by combining these, this is where we can provide an even more augmentative lift in revenue for our customers. So for us, it was really a very strong point where it just aligned. I mean, that's just from a technology and marketplace. And culturally, it was the case where we literally vetted a lot of companies as potential acquisition partners and ones that we can come in and grow. But all said, Qubit, it just fit the mold across the board on the parts. So that's where we were excited to bring the company in. And what's great is actually a lot of the leadership roles, even within the combined company, we have Qubit people that are coming in and driving that. So from our side, it's been a great acquisition and really what I believe has been strategic. And it's going to set us up for the ability that we can deliver to our customers mutually on both sides with respect to converting and growing their businesses.
Yeah, and I think that's a key point you make. The alignment, obviously, the technology integration between the two companies is critical, but then that cultural piece as well, as you mentioned, finding the right partner that you share common values, and it seems like that's been the case with the acquisition of Qubit.
Absolutely. And that's really the thing we look at. It's just the part is as we go in, certainly in the war on talent, there we look at, they call the Great Resignation, and never more has there been a point, at least in recent history, of people going back and forth between positions. So this has been a big part for us to be able to go in and look at the people and what we've done. So what's great is just that ability. The integration has been very, very quick. We've merged our teams. We've actually called it an amalgamation. We don't even call it integration. It's an amalgamation. And that's what all of our meetings are all about, is how we get together and really just build out and grow stronger. And it's been a case where just noticing where we were, it's been at this point, we look at the dates, it's been just really one calendar quarter from where we've been, but it feels like we've been working together for a while, just with how well the teams have gelled together.
Yeah, that's a great sign. And, and bringing a stronger offering to market, as you mentioned, I want to touch on kind of the core piece of Coveo's business, and you kind of as that enterprise search that it's powered. Let's kind of take a step back and talk a little bit about the challenges that brands and retailers may face today with regard to product discovery and on-site search, and how a platform such as Coveo and AI can help to solve those challenges.
This is an area we look at it, and it's an interesting part. You think about some of the giants that are out there, who's really, really successful in e-commerce. I mean, certainly the A word comes to mind with Amazon. And you think about Amazon, it's a search engine. That's what they go into. It's a recommendation engine, two of the most powerful pieces of tech. And they've been doing this since the 90s. And that's really what's defined the expectation of the user. You look at Google, you look at the likes of a lot of the giants that are out there. And why search does so well is a case where it's really, you can go in as a shopper, you can ask a question. And if it understands it well, understands the content, gives you back something that you want. Now, taking it to the next level, this is where the AI part comes in from scale. So as organizations, one, as people get trained with the likes of Yahoo or of Google and what would go on with Amazon, by all the various different work, really the understanding and deep understanding of what gets in from a user, a lot of that can get applied. And by applying it, that's where we really see the benefits on it. Now, the hard part is organizations and a lot of retailers would go through and look at it. They don't have the billions of dollars in many cases, or really the background to invest in that. That's where the difference comes in of going in and looking at certainly what we do, what we see a marketplace to do and offer, is by bringing in AI. And AI is where our mantra has been taking personalization that scales. E-commerce, we look at it in three different waves. Wave one was going in the building of e-commerce, taking your products and getting them for sale. Wave two was the back office focus, putting tools in the hands of merchandisers to be able to go in and pick product selection and assortment. And really the third wave where we're on right now is for us to go in and really with clients and retailers looking at how do we go through and really meet the demands and anticipate the demands of the consumers. So really the focus on the consumer. A lot of the tools where merchandisers would bucket and put segments and have segments of 10 and other parts worked for a while, but our expectations have changed. The market have changed. And with that, AI is at the centerpiece and the only way that to go in and provide that really tailored, personalized experience at scale. And we say at scale, the millions and billions of transactions that are out there. That's why we look at it as absolutely an imperative for any organization that wants to be relevant today and certainly wants to be relevant and growing in their marketplace tomorrow, to embrace, not just give AI a little bit of a mention, but truly embrace AI in their experience, of which search, recommendation are really the pinnacles of where that comes into any shopping experience.
And I would imagine, Brian, over the last 18 months to 2 years, as consumer behaviors have shifted so rapidly, and what was trending as more digital commerce opportunities have really just taken off, and it's become that browsing behavior, that search behavior that might have been taking place in physical retail for some customers at retail stores is now taking place online, and that same level of experience is expected. Tell us a little bit about just kind of current landscape, what you're hearing from your customers, retail customers, in terms of the current landscape and how your product and platform are helping to deliver a better experience for online shoppers.
Two major changes we've seen. We look at our customer base and we look at really the leaders that are out there. I'll start with one is really the elimination of the channel. So we say by the channel or the amalgamation of the channel, maybe a better way to look at it. We've heard the terms omni-channel, we've heard multi-channel. In the past, e-commerce, you'd look at commerce sales, you look at sales in a particular store. But you think about it as the experience from where a user comes into, and we're seeing a lot of the leaders go into, is it spans across that. And at the end of the day, there's one top number for a retailer that comes in net sales. Clearly, there's understandings of where the channels go in and would drive that. I'll take it, for example, I went through and bought a house in the craziness of the market last year, and bought a house that's 121 years old. So with that, a lot of work in repairing lath and plaster walls and other sorts of things and projects that would go into it. So what that means is a lot of trips to a DIY store down the street to go through and do it. Now, the interesting part, there's a few within our reaches here in Montreal. And what it came into is you think about the overall experience. Well, part of it is, do you want to go get a new set of doors? You can shop at home. You can go into the store and do that. Well, one of the store's experiences, you go in and you can literally take an app, do a search, even from a web page, and within the store be directed to relevant information, quantity information, the exact location in a shelf and where you can find things. Or the other, where you go in and you do a search and quantity's off, you may not find it, you may not even get it. So price is certainly an interesting part, but realistically, if you can't find it, you're not even able to compare the price. So
Right.
that whole idea of just getting into where the mobile is embedded in the experience, where it's not one channel or the other. We're seeing that certainly from our own experiences. Our retailers are reaching out to us saying, we want to be relevant. We see brick and mortar as an advantage, and an advantage for customer acquisition. Digital inventories at all-time scarceness. What can we do to take our brick and mortar and make it be more effective? How do we really flatten the channels? That's been a huge piece. We've seen research is at in recommendation right at the pinnacle of that.
I'm also interested in your take, with you're talking about these personalized online shopping experiences, and something to factor in as we look ahead is the impending sort of demise of or elimination of third-party cookies, and what that means in terms of being able to get that valuable tracking data. In your experience and what you're doing at Coveo, tell us a little bit about how it might be possible to personalize that, even a first-time shopper's experience in near real time without third-party cookies.
Well, that was right into my point too. That's exactly what we look at. The second item we're getting a lot of interest in. It's something we solved for prior to the cookie apocalypse. So we look at it. We acquired a company called Tuso almost 2.5, 3 years ago. Really a very, very strong R&D in the areas of AI and machine learning. And we solved what we think is really, it solved and addressed an issue around third-party data and privacy, where we looked at the bigger problem is any retailer is the cold start and personalization. Now you take, for example, an Amazon, you take, for example, or even some Macy's or some of the really, really big top IR 1000 top 10 sorts of retailers that are out there. They've got billions, if not trillions, of transaction data items that they can use to train machine learning models, along with billions and billions of dollars of computer infrastructure. They can do it. They have the scale and the teams to go into it. But you take, for example, the rest, which is even more of the long tail, is still in the case of trillions of dollars of gross merchandise volume out there. And it comes into what's the cold start problem. Well, the cold start can be two things. One, not enough information to go in and train models. And the other is cold start for a shopper without a detailed set of data to come in, which realistically, you look at the analog world, it's not that different. So you take an excellent experience where you walk into a sporting goods store, and by walking in the door, you can go in and there's contextual clues, certainly time of season. Is it warm, cold, summer, winter? What's going on in the season? Walking into a particular department, maybe it's golf, picking up a club and asking somebody, hey, do you have any tees here? Or do you have any balls? Or do you have gloves here? Being that you're in the golf section or you've looked at those particular items, that has connotation of what you might be interested in on that particular session. So within the session, there's absolutely a need to understand those cues and understand the context of the user. And once again, you look at it in some studies that we've seen in our study, it was up to 95% of people have not logged in when they've gone to a site. And then you see others where sometimes 70%. So you're dealing with a large anonymous public. And the same thing, when you look at retailers in the physical world, it's been the same exact thing. They've had to go in and train people to go and really understand and get these clues. And that's where the difference gets made. So by taking that into account and really focusing your machine learning models on the product catalog, focusing it on those particular parts. And we've developed some intellectual property. It's basically, we call it product to vector in our implementation of that. And a product to vector allows us to go in and really understand and decompose product catalogs into multidimensional space to where a person can navigate through them digitally. And we understand the clues, understand the interest, and use that intent to learn from it. And then ultimately personalize that instance of an experience. So it's relevant to that time of year and others. And what's great about it, even without cookies, we provide that excellent experience. So the whole idea of cookies and being able to transfer that back and forth, it really becomes irrelevant. And that's something we've dealt with trying to solve another problem. But with the impending demise of that, and certainly as Apple and others get really strict on people's personal data, which we certainly agree with, actually, as our other lines of business and the healthcare work that or industry that we've been in, having data privacy, we think is important. It's going to be more and more strict when you think of GDPR and other parts around there. So solving for that, and at the same time getting a silver lining where we're producing a better result, we certainly see as an interesting way to serve the problem.
Yeah, and just to further dig into that a little bit, are you then So that intent data, it's based on some of the browse behavior, starting at a category level, and then filtering down even to individual product, and based upon that huge, vast volume of data, and using machine learning models without having a customer being logged in or knowing exactly from a third-party cookie who that customer is. You can personalize the experience based upon some of that browse data.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. So product to vector, we go in, we'll take a product catalog, and a large retailer may have 500,000 items, just items. Then you have size, fitment, you have all the other items. But what we're able to do is learn the dimensional differences in space between it. So it's really cool where you can go in and essentially, as someone would navigate a store, as they're clicking around a website, they're physically navigating in that multi-dimensional space. And we actually modeled it after some interesting physics around the way water flows downhill, and using that to predict buy versus browse intent and other parts, and essentially apply that into a product listing. And from there, generate really, really good and strong results that come out of it. So that's exactly what we're doing.
It's really interesting stuff, and calls to mind those personalized individual experiences. The expectation of the consumer is now that they're going to get that, and it's Coveo is helping to provide that for its retail clients. That's great to know. I want to talk a little bit about RSR research in connection with, in collaboration rather, with Coveo, recently released a new report. And one of the findings I thought was super interesting was that 98% of retail executives say they're currently using or planning to use AI and machine learning in the next 18 months. I'm interested to get your take on that, Brian. What does that tell you? And one, is it surprising to you, or maybe not? And what do you think it means for kind of the future of the retail industry?
It doesn't surprise me. And it's a thing where I think any executive who's not planning to use AI, I think the board would question why they're employed there. And there's no question that there's absolutely a need for that. It's absolutely an imperative. And we looked at it even 2 years ago. A lot of the narrative we had in the conversation was, you think about Amazon, they don't set the bar, they are the bar. And when you go in and you're just clicks away from going through and really providing a delightful experience, it's a case of you have a very, very, very small amount of time and a window of time to attract a user. The reality is, within the digital channels, there's so many of them there. They're so available to go through. And then as well, the level of customization, personalization necessary to do it, you absolutely have to use AI. So it doesn't surprise me that execs are looking at it in the next 18 months. What surprises me that it's really would be the level of adoption now. There's certainly some leaders that are out there. And to give an idea, the leaders, COVID benefited. And you take, for example, what went on, COVID, as we see it, certainly in the e-commerce world, it was a fast forward button for innovation. It hit the fast forward, and what would have taken place naturally in 6 years took place in 6 months. And with that, part of it was going in and looking at an AI, looking at the overall experience. So e-commerce went from a penetration, maybe 13% of all sales. I think it hit near over 20 at this point with what we saw in that. Amazon's revenue grew, but their share did not, which was an interesting part. So the likes of a lot of point-to-point retailers, they gained back a lot of ground. And what was very clear on any of the ones that gained ground, it was AI that drove it. So it's an imperative to get it out there. What I really find to be interesting is where the execution of bringing AI and how it's going to take place in the coming years as executives start looking at strategies and plans around that.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you. It doesn't surprise me that it's such a high figure. And my kind of thought process is just because of the flexibility of the technology across so many different functions of a retail organization. So we've talked a lot today about site navigation and merchandising your website and delivering those personalized products and around the merchandising end. But AI, its uses in supply chain and customer service and marketing and down the line store operations. So that's why I feel like it's not just limited to one particular function within a retail organization. I guess that's why I don't think that number is that surprising either.
No, I mean, you absolutely hit it. it's a case of, to be relevant, it absolutely has to get applied. You think about it from there, there's supply chain, there's customer analytics, think about fitment, assortments, a lot of the components that are out there, and scale. So as you go in, products are getting more complex, opportunities are out there, marketplaces have become a reality that organizations need to look like. And overall, customer experience absolutely needs to come in and really be first and foremost for those to be relevant. And those that COVID moved forward, they had a good bump. They continue to sail and ride that wave. Others that haven't, they need to address. And certainly we look at it. When you look at GameStop, there's a meme stock, had all kinds of information that went up and down. What did they do? They're going in and shifting to e-commerce and other parts. And they're going in looking at NFTs and other parts along there as well to really transition. So there's a movement. So yeah, the number certainly doesn't surprise me. And it'll be interesting to see the ones that want to do it in a more bespoke area, the ones that want to do it in partnering. So you take, for example, a Wayfair. They have over 2,300 computer programmers and scientists on their staff. So if I'm a furniture retailer up in a small region of whether it be in New York State or in Quebec or other parts around there, to go in, you could either look at trying to hire an AI person or go in and look at a partner that can bring in different components for various, and certainly our side around customer experience, but as well around what we do for supply chain. You think about all the other optimizations that are out there. It's definitely here to stay. It's going to be an interesting case to see really how it rolls out, into what way, whether it's more bespoke or it's a case that with partners, and certainly working with firms like us to go in and partner to bring that in a more accelerated fashion.
Yeah, and from your experience and your retail clients in particular for Coveo, are you initially working with the CX teams, and then level of collaboration needed within an organization? Tell us a little bit about within a retail organization, what you're hearing from your clients in terms of implementing a platform such as what Coveo offers, and then how that can transform not just CX but other areas of the business as well.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, we work with numerous different retailers. We work with B2B commerce in other parts. So we see a lot of aspects around it. And it really comes down to is the view of the customer and their view in the transformation. There's those that aspire to be number one and absolutely want to lead, and they want to use technology as that differentiator, not necessarily from a cost reduction. I mean, we're all accountable to a P&L, but it's a case where some are looking at it really being tech forward, saying we want to address it and look at the best partners that are out there. I worked with a company literally this week, had an executive meeting with their head of digital, and they've got members from some of the top digital brands like Amazon and others that are on their board that are pushing the envelope and pushing for acquisition and pushing to move forward. So we certainly see that aspect of it. And the other aspect too is and from an entry point, where it's strategic and there's a roadmap saying on CX, we absolutely need to make certain we're providing this part. Data is an asset. Let's treat data, what we have, as an asset to better serve customers. And there's those that have taken it from a strategic view. And that's really from a market share in the marathon that we're looking to run. They'll absolutely win on that. There's others that we work with too that have very specific needs that need to get fixed. And we have literally some of the most basic things that seem banal or really mundane to go in is just fixing problems, the expectation. And many times it's the CEO that will call us, who he or she may have their significant other looking for a red hat. True story. One couldn't find one on the site, and they ended up calling their CIO from the private jet saying, need to get this particular part fixed. Right. So that triggered off of you to say, all right, what's actually in it to make it so you can understand what is a hat, what is red, what does it mean? How do you show that to an end user? So it seems simple as human beings. These are the sorts of questions and answers we get. With the machines, it's a whole other level of complexity to understand what these things comprise and what are out there. And from a CX perspective, that's one way we look at it. And that's generally where it is a trigger point. So it may be a case where it's plugging a gap in a particular item, or part of a broader transformation where an organization is setting out to say, we're here and we need to get to here to be a leader in our particular area or maintain leadership. And what is it from the trends that we need to tap into? So exactly, we look at the uni-channel experience, or the experience of dealing with the cookie apocalypse, or even things we start looking at VR, the metaverse, a lot of these particular items that are out there. What's the next thing that we need to be investing in to be relevant and to further the brand along these lines as well?
Yeah, and that level of complexity, obviously. And the other piece of it, and to your point, you've talked about scale, is the speed at which you're able to decision make with these technologies, powering your decision making.
Absolutely. When you think about it, and it's interesting, we had a talk this week where we were going through and just looking at the overall caliber and quality of items. There is machine power, certainly with the cloud. We went into the cloud in 2012, which was the best thing we could have done with our company. The things we do with data, the things we do to crunch data sets and all that we could never do before. And a lot of our clients, our retailers, they'll send us billions of transaction items on a daily basis in some cases, where we have to sort through, process, and learn from on a regular basis. So we have all that. And then being able within a split second, and sometimes 20 or 30 milliseconds, come up with a particular content item that makes sense, that'll drive that conversion, that'll delight that customer, that'll keep the customer engaged longer from those parts. So it is a case where we just have more and more that goes in on this part. And then the challenge comes into just managing that and understanding it better. But it's really, those decisions are one where the machine can make them. At the same time, bringing that insight and looking for those patterns back to the people that are managing these businesses to pick the right assortments, or to go in and make the right decisions on what products they line up or what categories they may end up buying for in other parts as well. So it really, those real-time decisions are something that we've had in the past to a degree, but the data sets that we can use now and the more insights we can get on those decisions in real time really make a huge difference.
Yeah, strengthening those. Well, this has been great. I want to take the opportunity before we wrap up to give Brian the opportunity, for those in our audience that want to learn a little bit more about Coveo, the solutions it offers, and how it could potentially help their businesses. Brian, what would you advise them to do?
Great. Yeah. We'd love to talk about, we've got a great site, coveo.com, coveo.com. We can hit the e-commerce research part, and we got demonstration, got information on there. And we provide a lot to our customers. So there's an item to look at our integrated offerings. Got a webinar series and others going up. But the best thing is hit our website, and from there, get a sense of what we're offering in the various different parts and customer stories. So a lot there. And by all means, if there's more of an interest, certainly engage on one of our channels, and we'd be at a point to delightfully connect back and help consult about what we can do.
Great. And yeah, a lot of great resources on that website as well. So make sure to check it out. I do want to take the opportunity to thank Brian McGlynn, again, the General Manager of E-commerce at Coveo, for joining us on today's episode of Total Retail Tech Insights. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Joe. It's been a pleasure. And thanks again for the invitation.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Tech Insights is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Tech Insights.